I'd like to give you an overview of photosynthesis so that you have that to draw from and take a look at again and again if you need a review in the future. First of all, let's talk about light. That's the form of energy that comes from the sun, and it's a mixture of different wavelengths. We have the visible spectrum, that's Roy G. Biv. Your smaller wavelengths, or your shorter wavelengths, are down here in the violet, and your longest wavelengths are in the red. Once we go outside of this, over to this side, that's ultraviolet, UV, and over to the far right, past red, is infrared. These are not visible. Like I said before, we see these different wavelengths as Roy G. Biv. Plants gather energy with pigments. Plants' principal pigment is called chlorophyll, which you probably know already. You may not know that there are two different types of chlorophyll, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. These absorb light very well in the blue-violet and red regions of the visible spectrum, but not in the green region. The green is reflected back to our eyes, which is why plants look green. That's the color of light that we perceive. There are other pigments that plants contain, like carotene, that are reddish and orangish, that absorb lights in other areas of the spectrum. Most of the time, the green color of the chlorophyll covers up the other pigments, but as temperatures drop, chlorophyll molecules will break down. The red and orange pigments can be seen. This is why leaves change colors in the fall. Chlorophyll is located in the chloroplasts. The organelle is called chloroplasts. There are two different parts, main parts of the chloroplast. There are photosynthetic membranes that look like stacks of coins. They're called thylakoids. Those stacks are known as grana. So here, an individual coin is a thylakoid. The stack, singular, is granum. This is where chlorophyll is located, in the thylakoids, and that's why in this diagram they're green. The space, or the fluid portion outside of the thylakoids, is called the stroma. So I'm going to have you think about the word space, because it begins with an S. Space, the stroma is the space between the thylakoids, or between the grana. Because light is energy, any compound that absorbs light also absorbs energy. Chlorophyll absorbs visible light especially well. When this happens, the light energy is transferred to electrons, and these high energy electrons drive photosynthesis. The high energy electrons that are produced by chlorophyll require a special carrier. Think of it like a hot potato. You want to move the potato from the oven to a plate? You have to use a carrier, an oven mitt, to transport it. NADP, you don't have to know all this business right here. Don't worry about that. But NADP is an electron carrier. It accepts and holds two high energy electrons and a hydrogen ion. In this way, it's converted into what we call NADPH. The NADPH carries the high energy electrons to other chemical reactions in the cell. What I want you to remember is that to help you remember, is that the P in NADP stands for photosynthesis. It doesn't really. It stands for phosphate. But for you guys to remember, I'd like you to think of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis uses light to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugars and oxygen. Know this chemical reaction. Make sure you know that. Memorize it. So what we have here is carbon dioxide, and that 6 means 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, and water, 6 molecules of water. Light is our catalyst. If you remember from chemical reactions, when we studied those at the beginning of the school year, the catalyst that remains unchanged goes above the arrow. So light's not part of the reaction, it drives the reaction. And what we get is a molecule of glucose. This is glucose. And 6 molecules of oxygen. And then plants use these sugars generated by photosynthesis to produce complex carbohydrates like starches and to provide energy for the synthesis of other compounds like proteins and lipids. There are 2 sets of reactions in photosynthesis. The first set is called the light-dependent reactions because they require light. They depend on light and the light-absorbing pigments. That's what you see on the left-hand side here. So you see light coming in, being absorbed by the chlorophyll in the thylakoid, and water goes in here as well. This is where oxygen is released. And then what is produced, and we'll go into the specifics, what is produced, by the light-dependent reactions goes to the light-independent reactions. So again, just to restate, energy from sunlight produces ATP and NADPH. These reactions take place in the thylakoid membranes. Water is required and oxygen is released as a byproduct. It's not necessary. The light-independent reactions then, on the right-hand side of this diagram, is where plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And then sugars are produced. In the light-independent reactions, the ATP and NADPH molecules from the light-dependent reactions are used to produce high-energy sugars from carbon dioxide. No light is required. That's why it's called light-independent. And these take place in the space, the stroma, around the thylakoids.